Hello, everybody, and thanks for being here. 70 good reasons for for refactoring. So, we decided to present this today from two point of views, not usually like one developer showing his code. We wanted to show you the point of view of a brand person like me, a non-developer, and an IT architect and developer. So this is who we are today, the brand guy and the techie. And yeah, so within the next 45 minutes, we would like to show you a little bit a window to our project that we had, our learnings, our learnings that we had, things that we want to share with you, and we think will bring added value to you. So if you have questions, we have at the end, we have a time slot for this, and yeah, but maybe about us. Alexander and Marcello.
Yeah.
So I'm a brand manager for Touchpoints at Boehringer Ingelheim, and my role is to ensure that every interaction that you have with Boehringer Ingelheim, is it a website, is it an app, or is it a clinical trial? It should be more than just a touchpoint, should be an experience. So that's my role as a Touchpoint manager. Marcello, what are you doing?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm a Drupal community member. So some of you in the audience may recognize me because I was in the Italian community before. I also helped organizing some Italian local events, including a nice edition of the Drupal Dev Days in 2016 in Milan. This is my first time at the DrupalCon actually, but I attended some of these conferences in the past. I am a solution web solution architect, and I've been working with Drupal since 2004, around that, since Drupal 4.7, I believe. Heroic times. Yeah, after a few turns of my career, I'm back here 2 years now in Barcelona for the Boehringer web team and still working with Drupal after all this year.
Yes. So we are not like usual an agency or consultants. So we are one of the few clients here. We're Boehringer Ingelheim, and yeah, my first question is, how many people of you know Boehringer Ingelheim? Actually, you can raise your hand. Can we have some here? That's actually more than we have worldwide. So that's the thing. So we are doing a lot of good things, but we are a hidden champion. And what are we doing actually is we develop groundbreaking therapies that change the lives of humans and animals. So that's the thing that we are doing. We are family founded since 1885 and family owned still. And today, Boehringer Ingelheim is one of the leading research-based pharma companies worldwide, with over 130 markets. So actually, in every market, every country that you know, somewhere is a Boehringer Ingelheim site. And in Germany, where we come from, or where I come from, in Ingelheim, we recently overtaken Bayer, and we are now the #1 pharma company in Germany. Which is not the thing that we are the most proud of. The thing that we are most proud of is that we have a very rich pipeline. We have a lot of products coming in the future. And by 2030, we will be happy having over 35 new products in our pipeline, which is something that we are really proud of. We have around about 53,500 people worldwide working for us. And we are a top employer since a few years as well this year. So that's a small advertising part. If you're looking for a new job, visit our careers page. We will, but now start really talking about the project and not so much about Boehringer Ingelheim. So we're doing a lot of good things, and why are we so bad known or little known? That's actually the reason why we kicked off this project. So you learned at the moment we are really in a nice position. Everything is good. Our people are happy, our products are successful. So we decided from the corporate brand team to say, let's fix the roof while the sun is shining. So this is why we said, now we go to a rebranding and we change everything. You probably know Boehringer Ingelheim as a blue company, if you know them, with the usual white men on images wearing a white scientist dress. And what we would like to show is really how we are. And now we have prepared a small video that shows what rebranding means for us, and yeah, what we actually did.
Corporate identity. It's a much-used term, but what does it actually mean? If we break it down, it's about how we project who we are and how people experience us. It reflects our corporate brand, including our company's strategic direction. And when we're all working with it, that's when the magic happens. So what does our corporate identity include? Well, in a nutshell, it's the way we speak, sound, look, and behave. And to bring that to our audiences, we have different brand elements to play with. Sure, our logo is a big part of our brand, but it's way more than that. It's part of a range of elements that help paint a holistic and coherent picture of us. From a social media post, all the way to an annual report. And when we talk about how we speak and sound, it's about applying our tone of voice to our communication, or our company's new sound logo. When we talk about look, it's not just colors and logos, it's also about scale. An idea expressed in our imagery, illustrations, and icons, and even in our typography. Last but not least, in our color palette that helps us accentuate what's important. And when you put it all together, across all our touch points, our audiences experience us as one company, no matter where we meet. So with every interaction, there is no doubt it's Boehringer Ingelheim.
Yes, that shows how good the brand team worked. But what this video don't show is how close we got to build a huge pop hit. So before the brand guy gets upset, let's move forward. One of the main challenges for corporate website governance comes from the way that we use to build website actually within Boehringer Ingelheim. So I'll explain shortly what are the challenges and why we got there, and how we face those challenges. So we have 70 individual websites with a proliferation of project management activities and slow time to market for global updates. We have, because of that, code base that easily diverge from IT standards. And also we have fragmented content strategies, which is exactly against the video that we just saw. But how did we get there? Let's dive into the web landscape in order to get a better understanding of how we build website within Boehringer Ingelheim. So our web team, the internal web team, aims at building a platform as a service solution internal product to support standardized building of website for marketing and sales purposes. Drupal is currently our go-to tool, and what we do for local team is to provide a base image, basically an internal distribution of Drupal with specific features available, and also an internal a design system implementation built on Atomic Design. This is a rough diagram where we explain how our own base image concept plays out. So we start from open source images, which are used by the internal team to create internal base images. Then they are pulled by individual websites teams within their own repositories, and also these teams pull from a private packages repository the custom modules built for the purpose, and also the approved community module from the Drupal community. This is a representation of our tech stack. It's currently based on Drupal 10, 10.2 actually, not 10.0. And you can see that this ecosystem, this tech stack, is basically familiar with most of the Drupal developers, Drupal users that we have here. This is instead an architectural diagram of the previous architecture. This is actually a close-up view because you will see that we had completely separated website for all the corporate instances that we are managing. A relevant fact about how we work is that we don't allow for content editing in production. So we have the content prepared and approved in non-production environment, and then we promote to production basically a static database, a static Drupal database, without even allowing the creation of content editor or site administrator roles in the production environment. Another relevant trait is that, as I said, we use single-purpose Drupal instances. So we have one instance for one website, one country or one region, one topic or one product, one language, and one, of course, content team. For the collection of corporate website, this means that we don't have 3 instances like we see here, but 70. Okay, it's 50 for the corporate website and 20 for the careers website. This is basically the main source of limitations outlined in the first slides of this section.
Correct. And now you see the situation where we are. So you see the brand guy wants to have typography, new colors, everything new and nice and shiny. You see how our current tech stack was and our current situation with the 70 parallel instances. So what's the best way to start? That's the question. And for us, it was quite clear we needed to create really a very strong partnership between tech teams and the brand team. So it should not be like it's usually in a corporate where you say brand briefs tech do something and delivers, and then we approve it. So we needed to have a common goal together. And one of the most important things was trust and commitment between our teams, because otherwise it would not work. So the next chart shows something that everybody of you likes, project plans and timelines. Of course not, but to give you an idea how the situation was. It was May. We got the first small package of assets, of new brand assets, and we knew that our board and the family, so our stakeholders, they wanted to launch in October. So this was the idea, to have a global launch. And a funny thing as well, and then you probably as well have those PMs in your teams as well. The brand assets were not final yet, so that was as well the caveat on this. So we knew that actually by July we would have the final approvals for everything. So it was a sprint, not a marathon, and it was a lot of pressure. But how did we solve it? So one of the key success factors was we matched together for a 3-day hackathon, and really like everybody. This is the core team which worked in Ingelheim in our main offices, and we really worked together 3 days intense to solve as a brand and as a tech team together this immense challenge. And at the end, what was the output? We needed to make a good compromise. So that's as well something that we want to give you as well as a learning. Just because somebody says it has to go live in October, you cannot just accept it and do whatever you want. So what we said here, okay, we go live with 5 focus markets, but the rest of the instances, we need to have a global launch in March. And it was okay. So this was a good partnership between us. So we fight it with our stakeholders and said tech team needs time. And then we could rearrange and really work with quality. If you would like to know how this hackathon looked like, we have now the small elements of the hackathon, which as well, maybe if you do something similar, you can use for your teams or your projects. So the very first important thing for the hackathon was that everybody understands the brand. So we invited the people who invented it, and everybody from the front-end developer to the back-end developer, the accessibility person, they needed to understand what's about this new brand. Half a day, really like input into the brains. We together created a design MVP concept in this hackathon, where we said, okay, how could an MVP of the design look like, knowing that the assets are not final? This was as well half a day. Our architects and our developers sat together and with our vendors as well and with our partners. How could this technical rough concept look like? What is our target visualization of the whole thing? We as well, within the hackathon, got the approvals from our real stakeholders so that we know when we get out of this hackathon, there is no changes anymore because we get the approvals, and it worked. And we as well talked a lot about governance and long-term timelines, which doesn't make it's fun, but it was important that we talked about this in the hackathon, and during the whole project, we always could refer back to those 3 days in life. One success factor was an experience in neutral facilitation. So we did not just go with a bunch of people into this hackathon. We really organized somebody who was neutral and really brought us, the whole team, through those 3 days. So if you plan to do something like this, don't save at the wrong places. Just hire somebody who makes a facilitation. And we as well said we bring the whole team. That was as well important. So we needed to bring everybody from other countries as well. Yeah.
So, yeah, there was a new plan, actually. So the first big single release project was changed, was morphed into a 2 phases release. That happened after the hard discussion during the hackathon. And we came up with this plan that gave everyone more confidence about the ability to reach the goals. And what was about? So the first MVP phase was meant to release the new brand, the new branding, new brand for the websites to a subset of 5 focus markets using the existing architecture. So basically, it was a retheming in Drupal lingo of 5 out of 70 websites. Okay, and the refactoring was to follow up for a global launch of our rebranded corporate website to happen with new code and a new content architecture a few months later. This created 2 completely separated work streams with clearly defined and separated outcomes, but the common roots, the new branding guidelines, and the common destination, the improvement of all of our user experience, make sure that the trust and commitment from all the teams were maintained across all teams again. You probably think that this job was mostly about the corporate governance with a little technical support from the web team, but you may think again. So these are the subjects and the processes involved in this project. Yeah, a lot of processes as well.
Processes.
And also, it's worth mentioning that we look for ideal partners that can help us to achieve our goals because they understand deeply our tech stack and also our values.
And the colleagues from Factoria as well sitting here.
Yeah.
So if you have questions, you know who to hire.
So the new plan coming out of the hackathon was for the MVP to apply the new design and to demonstrate that's why we call it MVP, to demonstrate the technical feasibility of the new design to a subset of 5 websites. The refactoring team, in the meantime, started to work on evolving the software architecture to consolidate the common features that were common across all the local markets. Everything had to be implemented using an iterative approach, and the web team was to provide the guidance and the technical support, the release management support, the infrastructure support that we usually provide to the local teams.
Yes. So let's quote the famous Drupal developer Jay-Z, who as well makes a little bit of rap. Difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week. Why did we choose this quote for a challenge? Because this was actually one of our patterns within the whole project. Of course, when you have so many stakeholders, so many countries, you have ups and downs, and we had our moments where we as well said, damn, this won't work. But the moment that we sat together as a whole team and really prioritized the problems and the challenges high, within round about a week or a sprint, we could solve it. And that's actually what as well Jay-Z is saying in his song, difficult takes a week, difficult takes a day, impossible a week. So that's like a mantra. Maybe you can, if you have the problems, you can think about this. There's always a solution for everything. Really, trust us. Talking about challenges, which challenges did we have, Marcello?
We have a whole list of them. So let's start reviewing the challenges about how we organize our work. So there was a lot of human effort thrown into this venture. So one of the main initial issues was to organize this effort. So as you can see, this is a abridged list of project roles. This was not a two-pizza team, okay? And yes, we could probably apply for a Conway Lowe's prize. We understand it. But what happened is that we also applied the iterative approach to our ways of working and to our organization, and we understood after a few sprints that we needed to reorganize in some way. We noticed that there were issues to be addressed in the way that we worked. So the team decided to reorganize along 3 work streams for the reason that you see in this slide. No? Improve decision making, more effective meetings, more collaboration and communication. One work stream was dedicated to the migrations, which was a key task to be completed. And one stream was to focus on the editors and admins' experience. And one stream worked on the front-end implementation. Of course, by having to coordinate these 3 separated work streams, we had a lot of mapping and diagramming involved. And this is just an example of the visual artifacts that were produced during this time. So for the localization challenges, I hand over again the presentation to Alex, because this is basically one of the most important features of the new product that we have.
Yeah, and this was as well important from the editor side, so from the brand side. It's pushing new content. So as a big corporate communications team, of course, it's important that we push content to countries. So one new feature that really helped us and that everybody is now happy within our worldwide organization is pushing new content. So within Drupal, we now have the possibility to send translations to markets, and here we, for example, can decide, I have a very important press release or I have a very important article, I will send it to the whole world, but I can as well give it to dedicated countries if they're interested. Sending it to the systems, they are able to get the translations, and they can even as well decide to take the whole layout. So for them, it's now very easy hand-on. They do not need to rebuild sites like they had to do in the past. So in this example, for example, we had a very important content from ethics and compliance, and it was with few clicks, our US team had it kind of ready, and they just need to then do the last approvals and see if they have like special things they need to consider in their country. But it saves really a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of stress. And for the editors, it's like it's not like a big drama when they know, oh, I have to update something. It's cool. Drupal knows how to do this, and everybody's like happy. We would like to know some more use cases which were successful in the last few weeks and months. We had a small special for World Rabies, which is important for our whole company worldwide, to show how we stop rabies. We did it on our Blueprint corporate version, pushed it to the countries, and everybody could just translate in their own languages the special, but they did not need to rebuild the whole design and layout. We had some patient safety pages, which are important, where we from one day to the next need to spread it out to the whole world. But removing is as well a good use case. So we had this COVID-19 page still on our menu, which now didn't make any added value. So we could remove it as well very fast from really at the same day in 50 different corporate websites, which really saves time. Yeah, customizations.
Yeah, so yeah, localization actually is a very broad topic. So the legacy of the initial architecture is a landscape filled with local customization, hard to track even for local team, because nothing or not everything was actually properly tracked. So this challenge required great effort to map out a list of custom setting and features as complete as possible to be sure that nothing was missed when we were migrating all the instances into one single instance. An additional challenge that we have is that in the meantime, we were also following the evolution of the internal policies that we use for websites. So we changed the way HTML text fields content is published on website, and we started using restrictive settings for the text filters, Drupal text filters. And this created a risk that some of the formatting or even some of the content could disappear when brought into the new instance setup. So again, for this, we created a migration strategy, a migration plan for this specific problem. And also we did some automated scanning of the content of the database of the website in order to detect how much content could fall outside of the current standard and to create a risk map. And speaking of localization, if you work for a global company dealing with the Chinese market, you know probably what we mean. And we're not just dealing with the Chinese market, because for us it's a focus market. So we want the Chinese customer really to have an excellent experience instead of applying workarounds which provide not so good experience. So while changing the overall architecture of the application, the infrastructural challenges remained. They couldn't be ignored. And we stayed with the previous approach using dedicated infrastructure, of course. But what the team did was to improve the code management. So there was a need to create or maintain a separate code base. Again, I'm handing over to Alex for the next important topic.
Correct. So community was a major part as well of our work and a success factor. So what you can see is here our ways of communication. Talking to so many people, it was very important for us to really get a structured and transparent way. And those three, and we had some ups and downs, but at the end, and we are still using those three main channels for our communication. One big thing is community calls. So we had in very regular terms, we had community calls like every 4 weeks to really update the markets, the stakeholders about where are we at the moment, when do we need you, what changed maybe, and what are the timelines. We, within the whole migration, the whole topic as well of testing was important, and every country was afraid that probably important contents get lost. So we as well had actually just for the testing, but then we established this channel even now. We created a Microsoft Teams direct support channel where editors or people of the community can directly write a message. I don't know how to do this and that. Even simple things like I don't know how to log in because the URL changed. And then we can directly help them. It was at the beginning just thought for a few weeks, but now we said it's working, everybody's happy, and so we still have this channel. And we established as well a knowledge hub on Microsoft SharePoint where we have important information, recordings of our community calls, but as well FAQs and training there. And with this triangle of communication, we at the moment are very successful. And with the 70 different markets from careers and corporate, we are really, it works. We were using the community as well for testing. At a specific time, we needed to think about when we migrate everything, who tests. And of course, it's a budget point of view. So if you hire an agency who tests 70 websites with around about 1,000 pages per site, it's a lot of budget. And you as well always know it won't be perfect. So we made a decision that the community plays a pivot role in testing. And it worked because the markets know the languages best. They know about the topics the best. which legal situations do you have in Swiss comparison to Japan? So this is why we involved them very early, and they were part of the team. They were our testers. Another important thing in the community was the topic of content freeze. As a pharma company, we need to communicate a lot, not always because we would like, sometimes because we need to, because of a regulatory reason. In the past, we had content freezes, and this was something where everybody was afraid. So we created the no content freeze, which looked like this. In the old environment, everybody could publish as normal. As normal. Then we had delta content period of around about 4 weeks, because this major migration just needed for us 4 weeks to prepare everything. And we briefed our editors and PR people, within this time, please only edit the most important contents, because after the go live, you have to re-edit it. And this worked. So we don't had like a big content freeze. If some countries needed to update a very important press release or news about our drugs and medicine, it worked. They just needed to re-edit, and with the MS Teams, we as well were able to support them if they had questions in the re-editing. So this was as well a successful thing.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, that's about the community implementation.
Yeah. So let's dive into the actual technical implementation of the refactoring to see what we changed under the hood. So first problem, we had to design a new workflow because, as I mentioned before, we had a very completely different workflow based on separated instances, content edited in non-production environments. So what we did is to leverage some community-provided tools like the workflow and the content moderation modules. And for editor team separation, the chosen setup involved using the group module and the group site module, with some added customization needed, for example, to properly handle language path within our own ecosystem, because we have some regional areas which don't correspond, don't match exactly with geographic code, country codes. Then, by expanding the scope of the single Drupal instance model that we were describing before, also we grew in size the database that we're using for the instance. And then we started to notice some relevant performance degradations related to the database, and we started an initiative to track performance and to adjust the configuration and the tech stack again with an iterative approach. So what we did was to create a daily 2 runs actually of performance tests that were measuring Web Vital score and also raw response times for the application. And eventually, the preferred solution was to move to a properly sized managed Redis service for the caching backend. Another performance topic was introduced because we wanted to improve compared to what we did before, because we were never using for our own website the CDN page caching. So we worked closely with the infrastructure team, providing the CDN service to identify optimal settings. We are still working on these tweaks, actually. And also, the team was developing an improvement of the purge plugin for the CDN, for the specific CDN that we're using, to make sure that tax-based invalidation worked properly. So let's talk about migration now. If you remember, this was one of the main work streams that were defined when the team reorganized. And how does it sound to collapse 70 local websites managed by completely separated teams into one single CMS installation? How about ensuring minimal to zero data loss in the process? Because We don't want to lose data, especially in a heavily regulated environment. And just to add a little more fun, we did also a major Drupal upgrade in the process because we were switching from Drupal 9 to Drupal 10. This, of course, required a lot of analysis and upfront planning. So one of the analyses that we did, for example, was to map entities and fields across all the websites with the major goal to achieve consistency and to avoid data loss. Another major task was to map the translations and to be able to connect the translated items across all the instances within the new unified instance. And for that, there was help from automated translations. We got a pretty accurate score for that, about 90%, I think I remember, of the menu items were properly mapped. And the interesting thing is, again, we use an iterative approach for this. And while at the beginning, we started to map only page titles and URLs, then we understood that by adding menu item titles and the menu position, we got an even better score. Finally, we got to the master plan for handling the release. The web team, in this case, coordinated the release management and analyzed the possible scenarios with special attention to the rollback scenarios, to the rollback process. And we especially also paid attention to the coordination with the teams, the internal teams, which we couldn't control directly, like the DNS team or the CDN team. So we're reaching to the end of this tale. We started from a draft plan in May 2023 to the first public release in March of this year, almost 1 year.
True. The baby's 1 year old.
Yeah. And these are the figures that we collected by the time of the release about the development effort. In this slide, I'd like to focus especially on the number of users that we are supporting and on the number of spikes completed to validate the team's approach during the development phase. These are also rough figures about the migrations. I think they're interesting and they give us pride, I think. But all of this quantitative development effort also brought some other interesting facts.
Yes, because if I go to my CEO, he doesn't understand what 30,000 nodes are. This is why the other side of the topic. So if we compare 2023 before the refactoring, these were the numbers that we roundabout reached. Unique users, people who interact with the site, and people who convert. And if we then look the year in refactoring, same months, so really fresh numbers from last week, we had really crazy success. It's 61% more people that we reached. The engagement is better and the conversions are better. So I think search engines like this approach, for example. Yeah, so it's really successful. It works.
So what we have right now. So this is the architectural diagram that I displayed before. This is what we have in May 2023, and these 3 samples actually represent 70 separated websites. Nowadays, we have this updated diagram, and the things I would like you to focus regarding this is that now we have the second people icon from the top left, the corporate blueprint team, which is working closely with the local teams on the same software architecture, on the same application architecture to manage the blueprint in a more effective and streamlined way, with a lot more grip on the governance of the content. Then we have, we had to do documentation, but probably it's going for the next sprint. No, really, actually, we did quite a lot of homework already. There's still work to do, but the team, the development team, and the partners did a very good job in creating both technical and process-related documentation useful for future developments, but also for facilitating the content community members onboarding on the new solution. And of course, I already mentioned some of it. We have still work to do to improve. Among this item, I can only mention the improvement that we need to bring to our own internal QA pipelines, because they are currently built to support only static analysis, but we want to improve them, to modernize them, and to make them support also regression and behavioral testing based on a fully running application. And also, we are also facing some deployment performance issues because of the size of the increased size of the database. And sometimes when we do code deployment, we have to control some database load issues. And finally, there's the product development, which is based on listening to our user feedback, helping users to focus on content, and on improving the editor experience.
So let's talk about key learnings. That's the last chart before the Q&A. What did we learn? So the first thing is set realistic expectations. You remember the timeline chart. If the team has kind of anxiety and says this won't work, speak it out, and everybody should know what is the realistic expectation. This really helped us a lot. Second learning is centralized content governance is crucial for migration. So if I would have, or we would have done this project one more time, we would have started the content governance like a year before, because this was really kind of one of our biggest challenges. And learning number 3, use your community and involve them. It should not always just be everything on the shoulders of the developers to do it. Use everybody who's working with it. It will be fun and better quality.
Yeah, and from an IT side, I can say that we must be ready to challenge an upfront design, traditional architecture design, to make good use of the development experience during the project. We must be ready to reorganize or to reevaluate the effectiveness of our plans and processes. And also, we have to challenge our Drupal habits, because in this, what we have demonstrated also today implicitly is that you can change radically the way you use Drupal from a very distributed model to a centralized sort of model. And also, Drupal was very useful during the development phase because it was used for quickly testing the approaches. So its prototyping abilities was used. I guess that's it. We have probably 1 minute. For,
Yeah, let me look at when the next session is. I think how long the crossover is. We've got a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
For your localized translation, you were saying something about Blueprint. Is that something that you developed, or it's a Drupal module or external vendor?
Yeah. So the blueprint is for us at the first place not a technical module. Okay. It's more a concept. We say level 1, level 2, level 3 from our menu items. This is our blueprint, and within our content governance, within the whole company, we force or convince everybody to reuse it, because we say these blueprint items are important for us to spread the message. But we combined it together with a set of rights. It means nobody can change blueprint items except the blueprint team. This was one thing, and blueprint items communicate within the countries. So the global About Us page, which is a blueprint page, knows that the Italian or the Spanish About Us page is belonging together, although it's a different language. So that's the blueprint. But maybe you can give some
how do you
more.
technically push that? Say, here's a new press release. it's in your local site.
Correct.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So basically, this is an effect, a consequence of the group-based solution that I mentioned during the talk. So basically, we have within the single instance completely separated user spaces based on the countries or regions, and each user space only takes control of the local content, but there is also a central role. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like global. Let's call it global role, which is able to administer the local content, but also to do these push things with global content that needs to be communicated to the local markets. So the technical enablement of this basically is the group module and its ecosystem and its few customization that were built in this project.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.